Former town mayor Horace Johnson came and actually shared some ideas with the town board and made some suggestions. And there was a fair number of citizens in the audience who were interested about this, as there was an ad in the News of Orange encouraging people to come and attend, which was really good. And I think a lot of the points that former Mayor Johnson suggested to the board were things that we've all heard in the community. And that was essentially like, well, the town should buy the Colonial Inn, and we want to save the Colonial Inn. And those are, so his proposal was, one, the town condemn or use its power of eminent domain to take the Colonial Inn and then either turn it into a hotel or sell it to a hotel provider or somebody who would run it as a bed and breakfast, and then use the money that you would get from the occupancy tax that we all pay wherever we go and we do to pay for it. So I want to talk a little bit about that proposal and share information with folks and some specific numbers to give people a better idea of whether or not they think this would be feasible or not. The amount of occupancy tax that we get currently with the Holiday Inn Express and Microtel and some other ones, we only get about $50,000 a year. So, and I'll talk about what it would cost to do this here shortly. We did some quick calculations. There's 13 rooms, I understand, in the Colonial Inn, but they're very small and most of them don't have bathrooms. So just making an assumption, if it was down to 6 rooms that they were able to rent out, and Mayor Johnson said at $200 a night, if those 6 rooms were occupied at $200 a night, 365 days a year, that would generate about $13,000 in occupancy tax. When you're looking at the possibility of over $400,000 in debt payments per year, $13,000 in occupancy tax, and that might be at the high end of what it would cost to purchase the inn and renovate it, but it may not be as well. So that's one monetary aspect of it. There's also the legal aspect. There are different legal opinions as to whether or not we could do what was proposed. There is no doubt that it is not allowable under North Carolina general statutes or against the law for the town to purchase it and operate a hotel or bed and breakfast. We're not allowed to compete municipalities with the private sector, so that is not possible. If the town condemned it and then sold it or auctioned it off to somebody who would turn it into a bed and breakfast as an economic development tool, that may very well not be legal either. So there's people who are providing legal guidance saying you can't do that. So what was proposed, there is a good probability that legally we could not do that. Even if it was legal, we'll talk a little bit more about the other costs. One thing that if there was going to be a condemnation of the Colonial Inn, it would really need to be, if you wanted to be 100% certain that it was legal, it would need to be used for some sort of town function or town facility. I don't know what that would be, but now let's talk about the cost of that, which I alluded to here a little bit. If we were able to get a 30-year loan, let me back up off the 30-year loan and talk about the costs. There's a wide range of cost estimates we've heard on what it might take to purchase the inn. I believe in the ballpark, $1.5 million is a recent figure that we've heard for the sale of the Colonial Inn. We've also heard folks say that there is zero value to the Colonial Inn because the renovations might cost up to $3 million. I don't have any idea what it is, so for trying to come up with a model for what this might cost, just for discussion purposes, I'm sure this isn't accurate. $1.5 million, which we understand is approximately an asking price, the $3 million renovation, so that's $4.5 million. And once again, this would not be a profit-making business. It would have to be a town enterprise to save the inn. Under that scenario, if the town could get a 30-year loan, which I know Mayor Johnson had talked about general obligation bonds, that's actually, for a smaller offering like this, is not the most cost-effective way. Usually you need to be $5 million or greater to make it worth your while financially. If we were able to secure a 30-year loan, that would be $260,000 a year of debt payments. What does that mean to a Hillsborough resident? That means that we would have to raise everybody's taxes in town, and for somebody in a $175,000 house, they would pay 3.25 cents more, have their taxes raised for the next 30 years, which is about $57 a year. So if folks that live in town say, I don't mind paying $57 more a year on a $175,000 house. So if you're in a $350,000 house, it's $114 a year or up and down. So that would be a question. The mayor mentioned having a bond referendum to get people to vote. You don't have to do a bond referendum, you could do surveys. So that's, from my perspective, a lot of money that would come out of everybody's pocket for a long time to save the inn. That's the less expensive version. A 15-year financing, which is probably more likely. Banks do not want to loan more than 15 years in this market anymore. If we had to do a 15-year installment purchase or 15 years worth of certificates of participation, which is actually called something else now, that would be the $404,000 a year debt payment. That's over 5 cents on the tax rates. And that's almost $90 a year on a $170,000 house. So everybody's passionate, wants to save the inn, but we haven't talked about impact of the money that would be ripped out of people's wallets to help pay for it. So if occupancy tax, which the Tourism Development Authority has, which they've got $50,000 a year, they could contribute money, but that is a separate body from the town board. Town board does not have control over the TDA. They're separate, they have a separate budget, a separate audit. Same thing with the tourism board. While the town board does make appointments, these are independent bodies. The tourism board gets about $230,000 a year from a food and beverage tax, but I believe in both of those revenues that you can take no more than 1/3 for a capital project. So even under the best circumstance, if both of those bodies wanted to give the full 1/3 of all their revenue, the impact on general fund and raising people's taxes is still going to be substantial. So I don't know what the right or wrong answer is, but those are some key things that folks should think about. We're also aware of, I would think that most people believe the best long-term solution is for the private market to take care of this. Mr. Henry owns the property. While people are frustrated that it's taken a long time, it is his property. He has to determine how he wants or when he wants to get rid of it and under what conditions. Ideally, if somebody wants to purchase it and renovate it, that is best for everybody. They pay taxes on it, it would be used, that would be great. We are aware that there are a couple groups that are interested in approaching Mr. Henry, and they may have already done so, I don't know. So there appears to be active interest in the inn, or it's in the process of that. It seems from a town manager standpoint, while there's active private interest, it does not make sense to start looking at eminent domain, which may not be legal, and at the best would be extremely costly. That let those things work out. As far as the cost estimates, we have seen a pro forma, a financial analysis of what it would take for somebody to buy the inn, restore it, and actually make a profit. And those expense numbers were like very optimistic, probably too optimistic. And under that situation, it's going to be challenging for somebody to work out in that case. With so much passion and everybody loving the inn, and I include myself in that. When I came to town, we had meetings and ate there, and I really appreciate the historical significance of it. When the hearing was held, the public hearing to address Mr. Henry's request to demolish the inn, I think we all felt and still feel a sense of urgency to address this, and this is just my opinion and nobody else's opinion, so it might not be correct. One of the presenters during that hearing that I thought was very important was an expert on restoring historical structures. And that was the slideshow, and this person went ahead and showed slides of many historical structures in North and South Carolina that had been restored. And in his analysis, the Colonial Inn is in much better shape. I know it's not in great shape, but in much better shape than all of these slides, and he had restored like over 200 historical structures in these two communities in North and South Carolina, if I recall correctly. So one of the things from my perspective that I took away from that hearing is, yes, we're frustrated, yes, we feel there's a sense of urgency, but it is not in imminent danger of collapsing, and that's what the experts said.